Well, welcome back, 613 Golfers, to another episode of 613 Golfer podcast, sponsored this week by TaylorMade Golf and the all-new 2021 lineup of TaylorMade golf clubs, including the new Sim 2 drivers, irons, hybrids, and fairways. Check it all out at taylormadegolf.ca. Well, I'm back. I know I've been gone for a week. No, not a vacation. Definitely not a vacation. A little bit of a hiatus to prepare, if you will, for and get through production of our latest digital edition. Production time's a little different when you're not doing print because you don't have to turn it around in a week and wait a week for it to come back. So just finished doing an issue. Got it out there, the May 2021 edition of Flagstick, which also represents the official 25th anniversary edition of Flagstick. This issue obviously features a century of golf, of organized golf in our region. And that's really important because essentially that's what Flagstick was originally created to follow, was the organized golf, and obviously pick up the little stories here and there. But essentially it was created to cover those events and get those get people's names in print, if you will, as kind of the mandate of the magazine. And then just evolved from there. 25 years later, here we are, doing digital editions and podcasts and unfortunately not print issues, but also very glad to be back talking 613 golf with everybody after this week off, and glad that we're back playing golf. I'm excited about that. I'm sure everybody's excited about that. It's good for my business. It's good for this podcast. It's good for everybody. Yes, all the mental health and physical side of it is important, but let's not forget that there are a lot of other businesses out there that are not open yet. And we're getting there. Phase one is supposed to kick in a couple of weeks, and hopefully the other businesses will get open and back to doing what they enjoy doing and making a living and putting food on their table and so on. So let's not forget that when we're woohooing and cheering and going on and on about how great it is that golf is back. Golf may be back, but there's a lot of businesses that are still not back, and we want those businesses to get back because it's good for our economy. It's good for everybody. So let's hope that happens pretty soon. Now, this episode is not about doom and gloom. This episode is about stories and history. This episode is about our stories and our history. And I'm excited about this episode. I'm really excited about it because, and part of the reason we took that week was to kind of get through that digital edition, get it out there, do everything we needed to do with respect to that so that we could focus on preparing, digging back into the archives, taking a trip down memory lane, trying to prepare for what we're going to do today. And what we're going to do today is we're going to take a walk down memory lane. We're going to talk about some of the stories and the nuances and the little things that have happened over the last 25 years with Flagstick, and not so much the news stories, not so much the things that made the headlines in the magazine, who won what and what course did we profile and stuff like that. It's going to be more about, my favorites, favorite stories, favorite covers, little stories along the way during delivery, things like that. So there's going to be a lot of different things that we're going to talk about. And what's really important here is that it's not just me talking about it. What's going to make this even more exciting is, aside from my wife, there are only two other people on this planet that know as much about Flagstick and have been involved with Flagstick since day one. And when I say day one, I'm not talking about since the first issue came out or in the first year. I'm talking about conception to production of that first issue. There's only two other people other than my wife that have been involved in that. And those two people are Scott MacLeod and Joe McLean. Both have been an integral part of the building of this business and this magazine and this brand over the last 25 years, in both in different ways, and both started out in different ways. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to really dig in and get to the bottom of what's happened over the last 25 years of Flagstick, and it's going to be so exciting. So that's what this show is going to be about. When we get to the end, we're going to do our tip and whatnot at the end after we're done our chat. But we're really going to get into this, and it could be a long podcast. So get the popcorn, get the drinks, get the easy chair, fire it up on the TV if you want to, fire it up on the computer, put it on the radio, park your car on the side of the road if you want, because you do not want to miss this episode of 613 Golfer Podcast. We're going to be back with Scott MacLeod and Joe McLean, and we're going to be talking about Flagstick in the last 25 years. You do not want to miss this. Stay with me. We'll be right back.
To make sure the TP5 is the best ball for every shot in golf, we had some friends put it to the test.
Hydra.
Check.
Check. Check.
Check.
One hop and stop.
Out the short grass.
Out of no grass.
Check.
Low spinner.
Knockdown wedge.
Driver off the deck.
No matter the shot, there's one ball that's better for all.
Check.
Introducing the newly redesigned TaylorMade TP5 and TP5X.
Check.
The most complete ball in golf just got even better. Only from TaylorMade.
Well, we're back, and as I promised, we're here. I'm here with my good friend Joe McLean and Scott MacLeod. And as I said when we led into the break, that Joe and Scott are the only two people that have been around and been involved in Flagstick and since day one. And when like I said before, day one meaning day one. Before magazine. it's 1996 BM before magazine. So Scott, Joe, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us. Actually, I think it was actually before magazine, back to the concept days of looking at the original sketch. I know you'll probably get to it, but yeah. I can remember, obviously, you having the concept for the magazine, and we're looking at it, and you eventually reference that, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But yeah, it's been a long time, and thanks for having me.
No problem. Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Long time since we were at that meeting at the Hunt Club where you walked away with a big frown on your face.
Yeah. So as we're going to get into all of this, and this is, I'm super pumped about this, because normally what happens with any anniversary that we've done, and we've done them, you guys, you've been involved in every single one of them. We've done them 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. There's always an article in the magazine. You know, there was the 1 year, I think we did Man Behind the Mag, which was a profile on me. And there's been many years where we've just done what happened the last 5, what happened the last 10, what happened the last 15. Well, obviously situation is different now. And while we just published online the May 2021 digital edition of Flagstick, complete in all its glory, normally in that issue, we would do some kind of Flagstick 25th anniversary feature. We didn't. We had a different feature in there on the century of organized golf in the region, written by Joe, him right there. Joe at the top of the screen. Big undertaking, lots of words. Well done, Joe.
Well, we had a good basis because Scott had done one on the 100th anniversary of golf, and so we picked and chose and amalgamated them both together.
Yeah, it was a great article. I actually read it, believe it or not. Now, you guys know I very seldom ever read the magazine after it's published. So mainly because I don't want to find any mistakes. Don't go there. Either one of you. This is not the time. This is not the time. So as I was saying, we normally do something like that. Well, obviously going and doing something like that in a digital form, we're already digital. Everybody's going to look at it in the magazine, and then they're going to go to the website and read it on in the website. So if we're going to do that anyway, I thought, no, we've got this new platform, the 613 Golfer podcast that I've been doing, and this is the perfect opportunity to bring the three of us together and just jump down that slide and see where it takes us. And there's a lot of things that have happened in the last 25 years that are not printed in the magazine, because they're the stories that go along with getting the stories and writing the articles. So that's what I want to do here with you guys today. And I think that the viewers and the listeners to this podcast are going to enjoy some of what we've got to say, and they might be shocked by some of it too. Guys, just in case you're wondering, here it is. There is only one of these in existence. There's not a first edition, second edition.
What kind of font is that?
I have no idea. I was looking at it, and there's a little bit of mold across the top here. It's been in the safe in the garage, and since day one. You'll see here, Kingston areas only golf magazine, because the original concept was a magazine. It was while I was working at the advertiser on the back of the concept cover, Golfer's Choice, which is the store that Scott owned with his partner Jim Petronka back in the day. I was the general manager, but I always had this idea. I wanted to do this Flagstick. Who would have thought? This was the original concept, and it ultimately led to this, which was the original issue. So Joe jumped right off the top there and said, the frown on my face after the first OVGA meeting that I attended, where I pitched the concept for Flagstick magazine. And people should know that while it's possible that some things can happen regardless of certain events, that particular situation, and I'll let Joe speak to it a little bit more, but that meeting, when I left that meeting, was a very discouraging meeting. And if not for Joe, the chances of Flagstick actually ever happening after that meeting became a lot less. Like, it was, it could have been a 50-50. It might even have been more of a 70-30 not to ever happen. So Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit, because that's an interesting story, the events that happened, and then the events that followed that led to actually everything kind of ended going forward.
Well, I guess I was the tournament director with the Ottawa Valley Golf Association at that time, and we were having a board meeting at the Ottawa Hunt Club, and I didn't know you were on the agenda. I didn't know you, but then the board gave you the time to pitch your case about a regional magazine and involve the Ottawa Valley Golf Association. And unfortunately, one of our board members put the poo-poo to that and basically said, well, if Valley Golf News can't make it, what makes you think you can make it? And the look on your face, because the discussion didn't go too much further. You explained a little bit, and then I guess you were excused. And when you were walking away, I excused myself from the board meeting, caught up to you, and just said, look, meet me tomorrow at the restaurant across from Harvey's at Billings Bridge on Bank Street. I think it was Crocodilli's restaurant.
Yeah, I think so.
And I showed up the next day with a loaf of Rito Bakery bread, gave it to you. I said, if you're going to be in Ottawa, you got to enjoy this bread. And I brought you 3 copies of the Valley Golf News and said, find out why they folded. We need a magazine. I mean, Valley Golf News, while they were in existence, it was a great spreadsheet, and they did a lot of coverage. And I figured if you could even come close to that, and then you can pick up the story from there.
Well, I mean, and that's interesting. And I mean, I've told Scott this story a number of times. In fact, Scott and I had a discussion about that very day after it happened, because I mean, Scott's been my best friend for quite some time, and we've worked together on a number of different projects, and he knows how discouraged I was after that meeting. But after you approached me in the parking lot, I felt a little bit more upbeat about the idea of it. But then after we broke bread, so to speak, or got bread, I was a little more pumped to move forward. And I did actually have the chance to talk to the previous publishers of Valley Golf News, which, by the way, was a great publication. And timing is everything, with any business. And, anybody that's ever run a business or started a business, timing is everything. And the timing, when I started Flagstick, the timing was right. It may have been even just a tad too early, as we really didn't pick up a lot of momentum with the magazine in the first couple of years, at least in the first year. But timing is everything. And after that meeting, I mean, like I said, that was somebody who recognized something that could be potentially really good, and didn't want to let someone be discouraged by, a single person or a couple people kind of poo-pooing the ideas, as Joe put it, and because maybe they were connected strongly to the previous people. And I mean, Scott, what I was like after that meeting and how I felt about, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, you had been so enthusiastic about the project for many years. I mean, you showed that that concept piece there, and we talked about it for years of what it could be and how important local content and regional coverage for golf and how key it was as far as growing the game. And we recognize the fact that there were a lot of there were some national publications and things. Local papers would occasionally give some coverage to golf, but there were so many stories that were out there, and that's what you were so enthusiastic about. And for all of a sudden you have this great idea, and for it to sort of somebody to dent your enthusiasm, so to say, I was disappointed for you, but I also knew you would persist. I knew that you were determined to do that, and whatever someone else said wasn't going to stop you. And thankfully, Joe's encouragement, fueled you a little bit more.
Well, and I think that's again why I go back to you two being here talking about this, is because when I said, I mean, that meeting, that was pre-magazine. Joe was involved since the very beginning, and in getting it off the ground, at least in from an encouragement standpoint. Now, I don't want this. We're not going to make this into okay, that's 1996. Let's go on to 1997 and what we do, because that's 25 hours worth of conversation. So
our memories aren't that good, boys.
I said, look, I told you before, Joe, your memory on all of this stuff is probably way better than mine. I actually had to look a lot of stuff up, because that's how much some of it I try to block out. But I do want to focus a little bit on 1996, because 1996 was year one, and there was, and that was sort of, if we don't get out of 1996, and then we don't have a 2021. So 1996 was obviously, like with any business, is a pivotal year, and in our business, to make it out of the first 5 years, let alone the first 2 or 3, that's an accomplishment in itself. So, looking back to the first issue, and Joe, you had a copy of the first issue you showed me before we came on air there. Feature number 1. I mean, the feature. This is the feature in Golf Magazine. How well do you know the Masters? And of course, look it. I'm a golf guy. I know golf, but when it comes to the writing and stuff like that, I made do for a lot of years with what I was able to do. But Scott was our feature writer back then. Scott, how well do you know the Masters? How?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we weren't sure where things were going to go, and you sort of had a concept of a mix of things you were going to do. And I can remember, I still have it in my office. I should have brought it out for this, but my original assignment on a little yellow piece of paper, with this, how well do you know the Masters, and obviously some product stuff and things, and it says right on it, May 1996, and I kept that in my office and pinned up for the longest time. And it was just a reminder of where we came from. And I can remember at the time, obviously I was involved with the retail store here in Kingston, and you sort of brought that to me as my assignment on the sheet. We weren't emailing as much or whatever then, and you were playing the role of the publisher, editor, produce everything, brought that to me, and I'm like, all right, there's my assignment. I've got to do it. And you probably gave it to me months in advance or whatever, but you had decided this was the time of year. It was the springtime in Canada, even though the Masters had happened the month before, but it was coming out at a time when people would pay attention to the Masters. And yeah, you decided to go with the Masters trivia thing. And I
The
was
big
putting-
question mark cover.
yeah, exactly. And hey, you know what? It is what it is. You had to start someplace. And truth be told, at least some people paid attention to it right from the start. Some.
Yeah, I would say that some is probably exact. Look, that was Scott's first assignment.
Yeah.
But the articles that were written in the magazine back in 1996, Joe knows too from all the years that I'm not a writer. I'm not a particularly great writer. I have a very difficult time with the bigger stories getting going. And Scott said there that he was a part owner of a retail golf shop in Kingston, and I still, even though I was living in Ottawa, I would still go down to Kingston and I would visit, and email wasn't really a thing as much. I don't even know. God, I don't even think I had an email address. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, for sure you did. I mean, I can remember having email 2 and 3 years before that.
Netscape.ca.
Yeah, but obviously, in-person communication was a lot more common. And like you said, you had been the general manager at the store, and you'd still come down and visit and see us and talk about things. And I think that's where you're getting to as far as the requests on me to maybe help you out a little bit.
Exactly. The very first time that really happened is I think I was writing a feature feature golf
number, Jeff.
What's that?
You had a fax number.
I did. There was a fax machine, and there was an occasion where our previous cat Pepper walked across the fax machine in the apartment and phoned my parents. So
nice.
Yeah. So God knows who he was faxing in the middle of the night that I don't know about. But I could never get this article on Colonnade Golf Course. I wasn't calling this Calabogie.
Yeah.
I couldn't get this article started. For the life of me, I could not figure out how to get this article started. And I was down in Kingston and I'm visiting Scott at the store, and he was behind the counter, and I said, man, I can't, I just don't even know where to go with this. I can go once I get going. So Scott sort of just took it and said, yeah, okay, let's do that. He did boom, 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 boom. He had, next thing you know, I have 200 or 300 words of this story ready to go. And then we get it finished and everything. And it was a great story and everything. And it said, course profile, Calabogie by Jeff Botter. So but that's okay. At that point, I knew there was no way that this was ever going to fly if I didn't have Scott around. So it's interesting, some of those things that happen over, that's all in the first year.
Yeah.
And for me, I got married in June of 1996, and then honeymoon right afterwards. The magazine, the July issue of the magazine was dropped off at the printer on my way to Kingston to get married. I finished the production, drop it off at the printer, which was in Gananoque at the time, so it worked out well. Drove to Kingston, did the married thing, left Kingston, went on the honeymoon to Lake Placid, came back from Lake Placid, rented the van, went to Gananoque, picked up the magazines and started delivery. That was sort of that span of a week that went by. And the funny part about that delivery was I had no idea how much 15,000 magazines weighed. Like, I had no idea.
You found out very quickly.
Yeah, we found out, and this may be just the first of many delivery stories, but it wasn't the first delivery that we'd done, but the first issue, I had a cargo van, and it was fine. Like, I didn't really think about it that much. It was just because that was what was available. When we delivered the July issue, for some reason, we got a safari van, just a regular passenger van, and it backed in, loaded 15,000 magazines in the back of this thing, and God did the back end of the bumper not end up about 3 inches off the ground. And we started delivery, and the front end of the van was bouncing up and down this, and we drove all the way back to the apartment, dropped a couple of bundles on the way, unloaded the entire van into the foyer of the apartment. And they were nice enough to let us leave them there. And that, gentlemen, is how the Cloverleaf delivery system was born. We had no choice. We had to do the delivery in loops, coming back and picking up. So that's the well, I won't say modern day, because the modern day is digital. It's a lot easier to deliver these things.
Thankfully.
But
So
that
you were the
first delivery.
low rider, Jim.
What's that?
You were low ride.
Oh, I was low rider. It was like one of those, hydraulic systems without the hydraulics in it there. And, that was that first year of deliveries was just, it was so interesting. Trish was joking with me the other day about how my left arm and her right arm were tanned.
Yeah.
Because they're, driving around 4 days. 4 days it took us to finish delivering magazines throughout the entire region, because we didn't do any by courier back then. And there was no digital. So, and then we climbed to the end of the year, and it was exciting to do it. There was lots of neat little things that had happened. But I finished the year and I said, I've recycled more magazines than we've actually given out to people, and I was, we get back to how discouraged at the beginning everything was. And then, to be where we are now, and I'm discouraged again, because it's like, was this really a good idea? Did it work? And Trish and I happened to be pulling in the parking lot at the Bayshore Mall in the fall. And we were walking down the parking lot to come into the mall. And lo and behold, sitting on the dash of somebody's window of their car was a copy of Flagstick opened up to an article. And as soon as I saw that, I turned to Trish and I said, you know what? That's why we're doing this. That's exactly why we're doing this. And, we decided to go another year, and here we are, 25 years later, but we made it through, 1996. My salary the first year that I paid myself was an Esquire golf watch.
Awesome.
Which, by the way, I still have. I don't wear it, but I do still have it. So we made it through 1996, and now we're trucking. All right, but there's more stories to tell. So guys, sit with me. We've only started to scratch the surface of where all this is going, but sit with me. And we're just gonna take a quick break, everybody. And when we jump back in, we're gonna dig into some of these stories and some of our favorites over the last 25 years. I know you're not gonna want to miss any of this, so stay with us. We're gonna be right back.
Why do we say things like,
well, not gonna beat that one today.
or worse?
There's the one shot that'll keep you coming back.
Why can't it be more like 5 or 10 or even 50 shots that keep you coming back? That's why we made the all-new Sim 2. With a cap-back design, they're built differently to help give you more forgiveness and more distance more often. So if someone says the key to golf is
Lowering your expectations.
just say,
Nah, it's actually playing better irons.
the all-new Sim 2 irons from TaylorMade.
That's a good point.
All right, we're back. That was a great first segment. And we've gotten through 1996, and
Barely.
I think I breathed as easy getting through that little segment as I did getting through the actual first year of 1996.
Well, I was kind of laughing actually when you talked about the seeing the magazine being open, and I think that was the sort of the same thing for me one time, was running into it. Now it's going to be weird and it'll be a funny story or whatever, but I can remember, I think it might have been the Renfrew Golf Club. Or Emerald, sorry, it was Emerald Links. And I remember walking in and going down to the washroom. I was doing delivery or whatever, and I walked in and went to the bathroom stall or whatever and looked, and there was a copy of the magazine on the back of the toilet. And I thought, you know what? That's a compliment, as funny as it is.
Yeah.
I just thought, okay, you know what? That shows you we're at where we're at, where somebody obviously takes the priority that they want to read the magazine. They're going to take it to the washroom and read it or whatever. I'm like, it's kind of creepy, but in the other ways, it's good. So it was kind of a funny sign. So just to play on that story that you said from the Bayshore.
Yeah,
Through the years, one commonality in every pro shop was our directory behind the counter. Everybody pinned it up because all of the phone numbers and information was right there.
Yeah.
I mean, before the internet was super common. Obviously, everybody used to have phone books, but we created a directory with the golf courses. So you're right. We'd go into shops and, you go over to their handicap computer and they'd have those pages pulled out. And then people knew if they wanted to phone a golf course, that's how they could get the phone number or information about the courses.
It's funny, even with the introduction of the internet, how popular that directory still remained. Long past the ability to go online. Heck, you could go on our website and look up all the information directly from the directory. I mean, there's a searchable map there, for goodness sake. And we weren't the only website that had that kind of stuff. But people still seem to, somehow gravitate towards that printed spread, which, I mean, Joe, do you remember in the first year, do you recall any kind of little tidbits or stories from your travels? As at that time you were the tournament director for the OVGA, so you were around a lot as much then as you are now.
Nothing but favorable news. There were people that were collecting. Larry Dufour, the old junior chairman who replaced me as the president of the OVGA, still has every copy of every flagstick. He collected them, going around to the clubs. They knew that I knew you. Says, well, we need to get some some information into the magazine. And as then, as now, anything that comes to us, we're going to get it out. Look at the 62 at Mississippi yesterday to bring us up on current. Scotty, take her from there. That's
Oh, it was just kind of funny because, you notice online now, obviously with the prevalence of social media, but we're in contact with so many players and people. And it just so happened that Ellis Kinnaird, who, was playing out of Mississippi, posted, they had shot 62 yesterday. And obviously I spotted it right away, had a chat with him, posted a tweet. And then the funny part was then this morning we get an email from one of the golf professionals saying, hey, Ellis Kinnaird shot 62 yesterday. If you're interested in a picture of the scorecard. And I was like, you're not trying to be dismissive because obviously you appreciate information coming in, but it's like, yeah, I tweeted that actually yesterday and I already talked to him. And, just because of the pace of the news now and the news cycle of getting things out is different than it used to be. But, those are things that are interesting to us. And, it's amazing how many people were interested across the country. It wasn't just people that are in Ottawa. They just thought it was interesting that here's a player that won the U17 provincial championship in Ontario 2 years ago, shoots 62 with 10 birdies, an eagle, and 2 bogeys on his card. But, it's those are the fun little tidbits that I think get ignored. And, it's nothing against national media. They have a certain responsibility and they have a directive of what they're trying to do and cover. And, they might be more interested in a 62 shot by a Corey Connors or something like that. But, those stories are the important parts. And that's really the basis for the magazine as it's been for 25 years.
Well, it's the premise for our existence. I mean, that was why, going back to the original Ontario Golf News that was published, back in the day by Ken McKenzie.
Yeah.
And that was the footprint that I used, the model that I used to create Flagstick, because Ontario Golf News, like a lot of things in Ontario, is primarily GTA, based. And there wasn't anything for Eastern Ontario that was similar to that. So that's why it was but it was that model, that footprint that was used to create. It was always all about, the golf, the golfers, the golf courses, all of the other stuff. I think later on, we always said that we're a regional magazine with a national look and feel to it. Like, it's just like, we have the instruction articles, we have the travel, we have the product information, we have, all of this stuff that you would find in Golf Digest and Golf Magazine and Score Magazine stuff. But then on top of that, we had pages and pages of results. We had pages and pages of news. Times have changed, but back in the day, I can remember, publishing 105 page magazines. Regularly 96-page magazines like that. Those are massive magazines. Now, times change, printing costs escalate, and you're forced to, you know, to make things smaller, and that means the stuff has to go. So that's, you know, why the magazine got smaller. That and you know, advertising changed as well, and you know, but it's yeah, those early days and covering those types of stories. And I mean, Joe, when was it that, I mean, there was I recall a conversation that you and I had when you were still working for the OVGA, and you had said, when you retire, you made a point of telling me that when you retired, you wanted to come and write articles. Like you wanted to, do you remember when that was? You know, my memory, see, this is where that memory thing kicks in. I have no freaking clue, because you've been involved for so long. I don't even really remember when it was that you.
It's all just a big blur.
Oh my
right
God,
now,
it is. But that's why I want to do this. Like, do you remember when that was?
Well, don't forget, all the way along, I accompanied you on deliveries. And
Yes.
in the blue van that had the automatic windshield wipers.
Oh my gosh, the blue van.
Never knew when they were going to come out.
No, we had no clue.
And then while I was with the OVGA, I wrote a one-page column up until the time that I retired from an official capacity with the OVGA. And then a few years later, 2001, when I retired from the Ottawa Carleton Health Department, I came on board with you. And at the same time, I went to run the corporate tournaments at the Marshes for Tony Dunn. And I recall at the end of that year, I had lost 20 pounds. And I said, what the heck am I doing? This is ridiculous. But I tell people that when I agreed to write for you in 2001, we had a small earth tremor along the Ottawa River. And we found out later that was my English teachers rolling over in their graves.
As your editor, I concur.
I didn't see any problem with any of it. It just goes to show you. It goes to show you where my writing skills were at the time. But you know, that's it. Like, honestly, Scott, this many years later, Joe has you know, has evolved.
He's progressed nicely.
My gosh, I mean, to where Joe was and to where Joe, I mean, Joe tweets.
I was 47 years old when I started. I'm 72 now, boys.
I know. I mean, well, that's, you know, we were talking about that yesterday, Joe, and it's amazing that, you know, we've grown up with this. With I was magazine. 25 when I started this. Yeah. 25. Yeah. I had a mullet. I had a mullet when I started the magazine. Like, it's and I was a lot smaller too. But you know, it's that evolution. I mean, Joe's you know, developed into a very, like, an exceptional writer and a historian. And we talked about that, Joe, too, is that your passion for history, which is indicative of you know, this article in this issue, where it's a compilation of so many little bits of history, some compiled by Scott in the previous article and over the years, and yourself and some other research. But you know, you have a passion for history, and I think that passion has been. I think it was always there. I think it just kind of evolved and developed over the years of doing what you're doing with Flagstick.
Well, so much so, like we were talking about, that I kind of think that both Flagstick, you and Scott and myself, we're leaving a legacy for future generations. All of this stuff that's going to be online, all of these stories, how many personal profiles? I think the last time I counted, there were over 215 personal profiles. And we've pretty much done a story on the majority of golf courses in Eastern Ontario, Western Quebec. Mm-hmm. And those stories are research material for people that follow us.
Yeah, and I think you're bang on with that, Joe. I mean, I think one of the secrets always for the publication was the fact that we're in an area that's very rich in history. And, you know, it was just fortunate recently with the 50th anniversary of the Canadian Golf Hall of Fame coming up to do a little bit of a vignette on the history of golf in Canada and about the founding of Golf Canada. And obviously that happened in our region, and the founding of the PGA of Canada happened in our region. So the cool part is that we have such a rich history. I think that's been the fuel for the publication. It would be a lot harder to do it in an area where there wasn't that history of golf. And it's been a point of pride, I think, for all of us to make sure that we expound on that. It's not just about what happens today, it's what's happened in the past as well. And, the effort to blend that all in there and to make sure that we recognize, so many people and so many talents and founders of the golf courses and the people that have shaped the game in the region. I think those are important stories for the golfers of the region and just the people in the region. And it's been good to have that as part of it, for sure.
Well, I remembered Jeff after the McKellar Park story came out. Jeff
Yeah.
had said to me, "So how long you been working on that story?" I said, 3 years. And it
Yeah.
all happened that I happened to read somewhere on a website, I think it was Pineview's website, that some gardeners in the McKellar Park area had found some golf balls while they were digging their gardens. And says, "What the heck's that all about?" So I did some research. Funny story, I ran into Judge Frank Dunlop at the Schmuckers Club on Wellington Street, and I went up to talk to these old timers, and they said, Jake said, "Well, I know all about the McKellar Park Golf Club, and when you do the story, I want 25 copies." I said, "What for?" He says, "Because people laugh at me when I tell them there was an 18-hole golf course in the McKellar Park area."
Yeah.
So just to have that history. And then the city of Ottawa asked for 10 copies for their archives. So stuff like that really makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and Fort Henry too, Scott. Like there's
Yeah.
nobody. Most people have no idea that there was a golf course on that property before all the other golf courses were built. That there was a golf course on that property.
Yeah, I mean the original Kingston Golf Club, on the Berryfield Commons, which works its way just on the east side of Kingston, and the fact that that was one of the original golf courses that was part of that proclamation for the founding of the Canadian Golf Association. So again, that lends into itself, and the first winner of the Canadian Men's Amateur came from Kingston, and we've just been like I said, we've been sort of a cradle for golf in the country, and it's been nice to pull those threads. And because Joe has that passion as well, we end up in funny conversations all the time where we just all of a sudden start talking about a certain thing, and I spotted this, and hey, maybe we can find out more about that, and then we end up with a lot of conversations going, oh well, we didn't know about that, or this golf course, what happened to that? And those stories wouldn't be uncovered if we didn't take the time to look at it. They would be lost to time. And that's the unfortunate part, is that, if they do get lost to time, they're gone. And as each year passes, if nobody explores that, then they'll never be explored again.
Well, it's interesting that, when we published this 100 years, a century of organized golf within the region, and it didn't really resonate with me as much at the time, but it's 100 years of organized golf in the region, and we have been a part of that 100 years for a quarter of that 100 years, like 25 years of that 100 years. We've been a part of that, covering it, talking about it, writing about it. We're right in the thick of it. We've been in the thick of it for 25 years. I don't know how many more years it's going to be, but it's just interesting it's interesting, and it's exciting to be in that position, all this time. So
yeah, I think it's a privilege, and people have to understand that, it's never been about us. It's been about sharing those stories of everyone else, and, their love of the game, and again, how golf has shaped everything sort of in the region. So, it's just a privilege to kind of be part of it and to be able to do that. And, obviously for you to be able to make a business out of it.
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, it's funny too, because it is a business, you have to bring in revenue to keep making it happen. But, we've had a lot of great support over the years too. And it's been a struggle lately, but to make things happen, but we're still here. We're still kicking. Now,
are two of your original sponsors not still part of the show here, Jeff?
Well, yes. Well, you mean as far as advertisers?
Well, I mean, going back, Kevin Hain and Mark Seabrook.
Yeah, I mean, it's I would say that the advertisers that there's the mainstays, right? I mean, Metcalf was around since day one. Kevin was obviously on the back page. Kevin and I talked about this in the episode that he was on, and we talked about the history and our history. And Kevin and I are good friends, as you guys are also good friends with Kevin. But Kevin's was on the back page of every issue that I have ever done. Up until now with the digital, we've kind of, back pages of a digital magazine are kind of not quite as popular as the back page of a print magazine. So they tend not to get seen as easily as they do in print. So we've kind of done some changing, and he's kind of like the inside title page of the digital issue now, but we count that as the back page. We'll call it that.
Kevin is infamous, don't forget, for turning the magazines around so that the display was his back page.
The only place that the magazines are distributed where you never see the cover, or the cover is the back page. I feel like I should be paying for the back page cover. Shh, do not tell Kevin. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot. Mark Seabrook, obviously, the conversations. I'm not even going to get into the details of the conversation that Mark and I had initially when I was trying to get the magazine going. But, Mark was one of those guys from a business perspective, and Gib Patterson was another one initially. I don't mind saying they're both very intimidating guys. As a young 25-year-old whippersnapper, thinking I got the greatest things in sliced bread business here, you got to jump on board. And they made it perfectly clear from day one of that meeting that I had something that they wanted, but that they had something that I needed more. And that it was that I needed to sell it to them. I needed to earn that advertising dollar from them, and I also needed to earn respect. And at the time, I would say I was probably more angry that they didn't just buy ads, and that they made me work so hard for it. But 25 years later, I can look back on that and say, you know what? If somebody approached me the same way now, I would handle them the same way that Mark and Gib handled me back then. Is no, that's a great idea and everything, but you earn it. You're new here. Earn it. Show us what this is going to be like. Figure out how to get us involved. Be a business person. This is a business you're running. It's not a charity. And I look back and I respect that now, that I had to work hard and very hard to get Gib and Patterson and Mark Seabrook to advertise. But once I earned that respect and got them, I've had them as marketing partners of this magazine since, and I have their respect. So what was very discouraging became something that was a great friendship, a great business partnership, a great relationship overall with both of them, and with others along the way too. So
yeah, I think that resilience has been really important. I mean, that's been sort of the trademark with the publication all the way through, whether it was, print, digital, whatever the case may be. I know just the last few days when it posted the 25th anniversary issue, the number of people that just remarked the fact that, we persevered, and as a result of it, we earned their respect, and we were able to adapt and work our way through. And I think it's just a good sign of having people that are dedicated to the game. And I can say, obviously, we've all been involved with golf associations. We've all sat on boards. We've all volunteered. We've all done those things, but we've all done it because we care about the game, and that's been the thread that has made it important. We talk about it obviously being a business, and you have to do certain things to be able to make a living, but on the other side of it, it's not just about that. It's more about the game and us fostering the game.
Yeah. Now, guys, listen, I want to get into, we might have to take another break.
That's all right.
Sorry, guys. This is some really good stuff. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about, before we get to this, let's get to this. Your favorite cover in 25 years. Who wants to go first? Favorite cover?
I'll go.
Okay, Scott. Yeah.
I think I mean, that's a hard one because obviously, a couple hundred publications, you're digging through and doing things. And for me, I've been fortunate to do a bunch of the photography and stuff over the years, and but it's not one of mine. Not one of the ones that I shot for sure. I think my favorite one was just one because it was funny. We did a story called, I think it was Backyard Paradise. It was called. It was basically talked about, golf. You're gonna have a copy of it right there, aren't you? So basically, it was about people building their own golf facilities at their homes and talking about that concept of people putting in putting greens and so forth. And you were doing one at the time at your old house. And lo and behold, you ended up with this cover photo where it's you on your lawn tractor with the straw hat. That's the one right there. I just thought that one, that's one of my favorites. That along with the one when we did the profile on Tony Harris, the artist Tony Harris, who's a good friend of ours, who you've got that one too. Sitting down, doing on the golf bag with his art in the background. Obviously a great guy and really showed off his love of golf, but also his talents as a painter as well. So those are my two favorites.
Joe?
The next one. I've enjoyed all the covers.
Come on!
Oh, come on, that's a cop out.
All right. Well, the compilation ones, like the covers you put together where you amalgamate all the photographs, and there's been a number of those that the historical ones.
Yeah,
that's my game, and those are the ones I kind of like. The latest one is just fantastic. It tells the story without even reading the story. It's there. But again, I always look forward to what you're going to come up with, and
I do too.
and they were always funny because, I mean, people wonder how we come up with them, or you come up with them more than anything. But lots of conversations, talk, and it's like, hey, is that a good idea? Maybe not. Or, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And obviously we've had some people involved, and even your own brother, that maybe sometimes we looked at some designs and went, what the heck is that? And do we really want that on the cover?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I'm not, I didn't pull that issue, the protect yourself issue.
Yes.
Sean and I, my brother Sean, was with us for a number of years, and kind of, he kind of evolved the cover design. The Tony Harris cover was one of his. The Backyard Paradise was one of his. There's been lots of them. One of my favorites, it's not a Flagstick issue, was a copy of Flagstick for Women that we did.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I really like this one. It was kind of creative and neat. With the wine bottles, it was wine and nine, or nine and wine. And that was another one of his. Sean kind of at his point in there kind of evolved the design side of the magazine, to a point where we were creatively on the same level as the big boys when it came to golf, or when it came to magazines and publications, because that was his thing. He's a designer and he's very creative. And there was one cover that was just, and I didn't pull it because I don't want to, I'm not throwing Sean under the bus. Sorry, Sean. We are talking about it.
He knows.
He knows it because we've talked about this cover, and it just, the concept was like, yes, that's a great, because that's why we went ahead with it. It was like, yes, the concept is awesome. And he'll admit it just didn't pull off the way he initially wanted to pull it off. And it didn't come across the way he wanted it to. So another one of my cool favorites is another one of his. And from a creative standpoint is this one, Zip It and Ship It. Just, some of those photo shoot ones that we did, where, this one was actually, you think that this is a bunch of golf clubs that, that are photoshopped into place. That's a photo shoot. That's actually a suitcase and everything's stuck in there. And so it's a very staged photo, but it was an article on getting your clubs, shipping your clubs, travel cases and stuff like that. So
I just had a flashback of another cover, so keep going, and I've got another one to talk about, a photo shoot.
But yeah, that was another one of my favorites. And again, I spent Sunday afternoon with out in the gazebo. I took a picture, and those who follow me on Facebook would know. But I posted it on Facebook of me going through 25 binders. Yeah. With multiple copies of the magazines, just looking at covers, trying to, which one really is my favorite? Like, there's been so many. There's been some really wonky, weird ones. There's been some that just like, oh my God, did I throw that together at the last minute covers? And some like these ones that, but yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, we had some fun travel ones over the years, but I think some of the profile ones have been good as well. I just had a flashback all of a sudden of being in the center ice with Jeff Hunt, doing the Ottawa 67's owner, and doing that photo shoot in the middle of the ice, at the rink, and just the elaborate setup for that. And yeah, there's just been all sorts of different ones over the years, and really, I mean, so many different photo shoots, so many different interview situations, so many different things. But, sometimes they were elaborate, sometimes they were simple. And obviously we had a lot of travel covers as well for, travel stories and trying to be creative and picking out, and, you might have 1,000 photos from a travel trip and trying to figure out, what looks best on a cover. But always interesting, that's for sure. And like you said, it's sort of like trying to pick a favorite kid. You're trying to go through and go, I don't know, I love that one. I like that for certain reasons. And for a lot of people, they might look at it and go, why would that be your favorite? But it just has a lot of different reasons for different things.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess along the same veins, the cover with the hickory sticks that you took at the Ottawa Hunt Club, Scott, to me, that's one that I've enjoyed also.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that one as well. So I forgot. It was one I forgot about. The other one was Dave Khalil. I mean, you talked about that on your podcast with Dave, but I can remember doing the setup for that out on the practice green at the Ottawa Hunt Golf Club with his piano, his keyboard out on the putting green, and doing this photo shoot, and all these people going by going, what the heck is going on over there? And
you know what they said? Oh, it's just Dave.
Yeah, it's just Dave or whatever. I mean, we might not have gotten away with it with a lot of other places, but again, fun to do. Probably a lot of work at the time to get the lighting properly and to get the right shot. And but in the end, hey, we pulled it off and managed to do it. And can look back now and have a laugh about it.
Now, before we move on from that, on the topic of covers, because there is the three of us sitting here having this conversation. Unfortunately, I'd like it if there was a fourth window open, but unfortunately, she has a job and she has to work. But my wife Patricia has obviously been the other person that's been involved in this since day one. Before magazine, even before conception of magazine.
She's the one that's tolerated it all.
But she was, initially, she was involved in all aspects of it on top of, working. She was proofreading. I mean, look I don't have it here. The way the magazine used to be produced is produced in a computer. I used to use Aldus PageMaker before it was Adobe. And we produced the magazine and then printed every page out. I produced all the ads in Corel Draw version 3 and printed all those ads out. And then I took everything, all these laser printed, I paid $1,500 for an HP 5P laser printer with the toner, just black and white, so that I could print laser printed 600 DPI black and white pages. And I would take all these pages, and as I printed them out, I put them in a binder, in the plastic sleeves, the binders. And then when I was done putting the magazine together in the binder so that you could actually read the magazine in the binder with these pages, I would give the binder to Trish and my wife, and she would sit down and with a pen, she'd pull out each page and she would proofread it and she'd mark it up. And now, obviously, the way we do this now is I send Scott the Adobe InDesign file directly completed, and Scott edits the document in the document itself and sends it back to me already edited, and then I just put in the ads.
It's a long way from you going down to the printer in Gananoque and looking at the blues and having to cut in ads. And they use, they'd shoot. I mean, again, we could go down a million roads and we sound like, 110-year-old people here or whatever. But it was just a lot more labor intensive in the way we had to do things. And, that's just the way publications were at the time. And that was the technology that was available. So we've just progressed. That's really what it comes down to.
Now, she mentioned to me that she had her, not so much favorite covers, but memorable covers. For her, one of her most memorable covers was the cover. We did a putting feature, and on the cover was a flagstick ball going into the hole, and she was the one holding the putter, making the putt. But the putt, I had toothpicks underneath the ball. It was over at the Meadows on the putting green. I had toothpicks underneath the ball, holding the ball in position with the flagstick logo facing up, and her holding the putter. And she was with me when we did that photo shoot. So that was one of her more memorable ones. And the other one was Sean did a cover where he lit something on fire. And,
that's right.
That sticks in her brain because it just freaked her right out that she was out in the backyard of our house lighting a golf club on fire and trying to get these flames to shoot off from the anyway. It was so those are a couple of things that memorable things with respect to covers that that stuck with her. All right, guys, look, we're still so much to talk about, and I want to get to road trips and PGA shows because those are kind of important. And but we need to take another quick break here because we're trucking through time here. I want to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about first road trips, how many road trips, different stories from road trips, because there are, and we'll even let our guard down on one of these road trips and talk about it. And Scott knows which one I'm talking about. So stay with us, and we're gonna come right back. Stay with me, guys.
All right, let's see who goes first.
I'll go.
Ready to golf, right?
Hey, ladies first.
Mikey, you have the on.
Introducing Sim 2. It's built differently around a forged aluminum ring for the drives everyone wants to hit and no one wants to follow.
Who's next?
First we changed the shape, now we're changing the construction. Sim 2 from TaylorMade.
All right, we're back once again, and I feel like we're only scratching the surface of some of the stories from the last 25 years, but here's one of the things I want to get into. And over the years, I think we've become a little bit known for some of our travel stories. Some of the travel articles we write, truth be known, everybody would understand. We don't go on all of them. We don't visit all the destinations that we've ever written travel stories on. Sometimes we have people write them for us. A lot of times it's just a lot of research and conversations with different travel destinations to get information to help us write those articles. But at the same time, a good chunk of the travel stories that we've done are from FAM trips, which are familiarization trips for those that don't know that term, where the travel destination will invite us to participate with a group, and we'll go on a trip with that group and spend time with a bunch of other people touring facilities and golf courses. Some of them are road trip, which we'll get into that as well. Road trip is more of something that Scott and I started doing and became more of a journal style, diary style, journal style travel feature. But familiarization trips, Joe, you and I were talking yesterday about this, and you told me something, and I honest to goodness, I just about fell over. I was floored by what you told me about fam trips that you've done.
Yeah, I've basically been on 31 fam trips.
Did you see?
Wow.
Did you see Scott's reaction to that, Joe?
That
That was like my reaction. I just about fell over.
all I could think of in my mind was like, I'm guilty
Because you wouldn't want to send them on them, not me.
Well, I can remember one in particular where Joe went to Mexico, and he can probably I see the look on his face now.
All right, Joe, let's hear it.
Where I talked to the agency, and then, oh, that sounds good, but it's a really short trip to Mexico, and you might be in the air for a little bit longer, or you might be traveling a little bit longer. But Joe can give the details, and certainly, let's just say, even though it sounds great that you're going to Mexico, sometimes travel for work is not so sexy.
Yeah, I think I was in the air longer than I was on the ground.
Exactly.
And when I got to the resort, I was a little taken back that there was two guys with a machine gun hanging out at the closed gate of the resort.
Oh my gosh.
Just stuff that is part of what happens. I guess there. But I guess, with Kiowa just being in the news the other day, a couple of weeks ago, when Phil's success down there, I was telling a few people that that was the one road trip that I went on with you two. And for some reason, I took along only my hickory clubs, and I played Kiowa with hickory clubs.
Yeah, in about 36-degree weather. Because it had been nice the most of the week in Charleston, which Charleston is a lovely location.
Not that day.
Not that day. Unfortunately, the temperatures plummeted, and we had to, although, obviously, again, it sounds lovely. We played the ocean course at Kiowa and then Harbor Town, the links, back-to-back days. We also did it with about every piece of clothing we own on to make that happen. So, yeah. So sometimes, again, you don't have a choice when you go on those trips. You don't have a choice to sit back and, I'll just stay in my room. You go and do it, and you participate, whatever that, amounts to. But yeah, that was a great trip with Joe along for Charleston, even though it ended with a couple of really cool days. So.
Yeah, no question about that. I mean, Joe, any of those, aside from that one, from yourself, familiarization trips that you've done, because, I mean, good Lord, if you've done 31 familiarization trips, any of them stand out in your mind from more of a positive? I mean, I'm not saying that the Mexico one was entirely negative, but I mean, let's be honest, you're not putting that one in the memory banks because it was awesome.
No, but they've all been positive. There's no negative about it. It's me getting to places that I normally wouldn't have the opportunity to get to. I mean, my first one was a quick trip through Quebec. It was memorable with two vehicles from the tourist people driving us around, and a flat tire coming down from Mont Tremblant. And yeah, I think we titled that one a whirlwind tour of Quebec.
Yeah.
But all of the places I've been to have been phenomenal, and people don't realize the different types of clubs and resorts and destinations that are out there. There's some great stuff, and yeah, just I had the opportunity. It's all positive. It's I guess the only negative part would be flying to the States. I pretty much had to be at the airport at 4:30 in the morning to catch the 7 or 6:30 flight, because that's when they went out, so we could make all the other connections. So it's been fun. Those have been fun, but I don't miss them right now.
Oh, sorry. Didn't Scott tell you, Joe?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we're doing too many familiarization trips, flying anywhere in particular right now. But it'll be nice when that opportunity comes up again, and we can get back to doing some of those things the way we used to. But Road Trip was born in, I believe, I want to say we did the story on Michigan, which was the first road trip. I believe the story was published in 2001.
Yeah, I think so.
I think officially, when did you officially started?
January
officially?
January 2000 was I came on full time, but
Right.
you know, we had done some different, you know, trips and things because you'd come to the PGA show with Jeff and I, or whatever, or Jim and I, and you know, we'd do some travel stuff related to that we might use for the publication as well.
Right. So the very first unofficial road trip, not entitled, kind of like saying the first equipment guide was 1998, but the first that was a buyer's guide.
Yeah,
it was still an equipment guide. The first official equipment guide was 1999, but the first trip that we did as Flagstick was Myrtle Beach. And that was when we visited. It was supposed to be an article about a different side of Myrtle Beach, where we was not so much a Grand Strand kind of thing. It was Caledonia, True Blue, Litchfield, Plantation. Jim, who your partner at Golfer's Choice, was with us on that one, I believe, because that was before you actually started with the magazine. You still had the store, and I think Jim got strep throat.
Oh yeah,
yeah. His partner Jim. Sorry, Jim, if you're listening, but this is coming up. He had an earache like you would not believe. Like, it was throbbing, and driving back from this trip through Pennsylvania. Through the mountains of Pennsylvania. Of course, you're at elevation there. So if you've got any kind of issues going on with your ear, and we had no idea what was wrong with him. He was just like, he was popping Fisherman's Friends and whatever. Like, it was, and turned out that he had strep throat, and that it was near.
It wasn't the first or last road trip that involved strep throat.
No,
I don't know if you remember being in Scotland, but I mean, we can get, while we're there, we got a little segue, but yeah, you and I obviously went to Scotland in 2010, which was a great trip and all, but unfortunately it was November. It was cold, and I had strep throat, so I wasn't feeling great towards the end. And international travel, when you've got strep throat, wasn't the best, but obviously persevered. But again, we did so many of these trips where different things would happen, and you rolled with the punches. That's all you did.
Well, especially on that one. I mean, I knew you weren't feeling well on that trip, but I don't think we knew you had strep throat until you got back.
Until I get back.
Yeah. So, but I never got strep throat from that trip. So apparently we stayed far enough away from each other. So getting back to the first road trip, was we went to Michigan, and I remember that one was we took the station wagon, the old station wagon. We had it loaded right to the ceiling inside. We had gone to the OVGA President's Day at Laramac. And we left right from Laramac to go, just
it was the end of September. I think it was like September 24th or whatever, and we were going to be gone for a week, I guess it was.
And we drove, and well, every trip has its interesting components, and the trip itself was great.
Once we got there,
thank God we did get there. For some reason, we either didn't fill up enough, didn't pay attention, or whatever. We're looking at the gas gauge, and I don't know what time it was at night. It was late, and we're driving down Highway 7. And we hadn't even hit Peterborough yet, and the light on the gas gauge comes on. And at that point, we figured, well, we're going to find out just how far you can go running on empty, because every gas station we drove by at that time of the night was closed. It was touch and go for a while. We might have ended up on the side of the road somewhere between Ottawa or somewhere between Perth and Peterborough.
Yeah, you know what? It ended up being a fun time. Obviously, like you said, we got to Michigan. We ended that trip in playing in snow the last day.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that, but you know, we just thought it was funny. Here we are at the end of September. It's kind of risky or whatever, but you know, it was fun. It was sort of our what it became was sort of our sort of year-end get together, play some golf, because everything would happen. You know, we'd be so busy during the year that we wouldn't see each other that much, and we could enjoy that time and doing those trips and doing them for, you know, multiple decades, obviously, and then eventually to have Joe along. We had your brother along in another one. We had our friend Tony Harris along. We've had our friend Mike came with us. You know, he came to Mississippi for a trip there. You know, we've done multiple ones that way, and I'm sort of boggled right now at the fact that Joe said 31 fam trips. Now I'm gonna have to do the math for myself, because you know, it's not just those fam trips, it's equipment trips, and you know, a burst to California for 24 hours and flying back.
There hasn't been as many of those lately, but I remember that there was a lot of those product launches that you'd be gone off to somewhere for just a few days with the, you know.
Why does he have to go to Vegas 10 times? What happened in Vegas?
I think he's been to Vegas other than the one.
I think.
Well, see, there's another story altogether there. It's been what, twice that you've gone to Vegas for the amateur.
Oh, for the Ryder's Cup?
Yeah, the Ryder's Cup.
I think I did 3 or 4 of those, actually. Yeah. I think what was funny was, you know, I was looking back at some photos the other day, and I forget what year it was, probably 16 or 17 or whatever. And I can remember I was just laughing, going, how many places was I, you know, did I travel to in the short period of time? And I think it was the year we went down to played Cabot. And I can remember having 3 bags packed because I didn't really have time in between for the trip. So basically we did one trip, came back, I grabbed a bag, went on another trip, came back home, grabbed another bag, and I like pre-packed and was ready to go, just because I knew how quick it was going to be. But you know, again, you know, we're still putting out the magazines and doing stuff, and I don't regret taking those opportunities to go on those trips. But yeah, sometimes it was a little bit stressful as far as the travel. That's for
Ever
sure.
lose your passport, Scott?
Maybe. I mean, give me credit. I only lost 1 passport over the years, and it just so happened that Jeff and I were going to PEI, and I think I was more excited because my family is from PEI. That's where my parents live. I think it was more being excited to get off the plane and to show Jeff around and whatever, that, you know, I left my passport in the back of the seat in front of me. But you know, thankfully it was the only major incident of that kind over the years. So in probably 100 trips, probably.
You mentioned your trip over to Scotland.
Yeah.
And I just recall how amazed I am. I'm over here covering an event, sending it to Scott. Scott's putting it up on the website or within minutes, and people have no idea.
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, on that same trip, I mean, Jeff will remember this vividly. You know, we were in the Old Course Hotel doing a radio hit with Kevin Haim on his show, literally right next to the road hole on 17. And I've told this story many times of a golf ball hitting the roof and landing there, and you could hear the sound. And Kevin's back in the studio in Ottawa going, what's going on up there or whatever. And we're like, well, you know, we're at the road hole and the ball hitting the roof. And yeah, there's just lots of different things over the years. And, you know, you did what you had to do on some of those trips, whether it was, you know, I was in Ireland dead sick again on a trip at 2:00 in the morning, recording a podcast back here where I had no voice. You know, there's been other times where you're just trying to put out a story, and I can remember waking up at 4:00 in the morning in Scottsdale when we were on a trip there, and knowing the time was ahead and trying to get some things up to the website and whatever. And I mean, that's just part of what you do when you do those trips. And again, it might not always be glamorous, but I mean, it's just part of what you did to make things happen.
Well, we started doing, I think the road trips really started to turn a different direction. We started working with a group out of the US,
Travel South. Yeah.
And part of the thing with them was is they wanted us to come and visit these destinations, but they had to be for their partners, they had to be done in groups of 3, I think.
Yeah, at least 3 different states. So.
Yeah, so we did trips with this group on a number of occasions, in number of years where we grouped trips together, where we were doing
6 states in 11 days.
Yeah, like it was insane, the amount of golf, the amount of travel. And the one in particular with that group that really sticks in my mind is the one that we did when we went to Georgia. We were in Athens.
We started in Pittsburgh or
we were at the Ogilvy.
Yeah,
Ogilvy was where we
Bay
started.
Resort. Yeah, in West Virginia. And we flew into Pittsburgh.
Yes,
and we went
that
down
was quite
there,
the flight.
and we came out of Atlanta 11 days later.
Yeah,
played golf in 3 or 4 states, and it was. And the funny part with that one was, when you go on a lot of these fam trips, a lot of the tourist boards will sometimes put together a little care package when you get to the hotel with some items promoting, their town or their destination, and a lot of times it'll be, pens or a clock, or might be a bottle of wine or whatever. Well, this was 11 days on the road, and every town we went to, there was something. So we were piling up stuff in the rental vehicle. And then I can remember being in Pine Mountain, Georgia at the Callaway Gardens, and we were staying in the hotel room, and we were laughing because we were like, man, the people that are servicing the room here are really going to hit it big. And because we left everything behind, there were so many things that we had multiple like sets of glasses and different stuff or whatever. Beautiful. It was nice to get those as gifts, but we just couldn't take everything back with us when we flew from Atlanta back home. So we just left a smorgasbord of all these items, and I'm sure the maid service that was there for the room, they were probably having a good laugh when they came in the room and went, "Whoa, what's this bonanza that's in here?"
I remember also on that Georgia trip, we had the film crew when we were going through the Georgia portion of that. We had the film crew following us. We got to Athens, we were in these beautiful hotel rooms, and I think we only spent
45 minutes
to an hour actually sleeping in the hotel room, because it's a college town, right, or a university town, so we kind of had to go out.
Yeah, I mean, they
we were a little younger then too.
Yeah,
but
our host wanted to show us the town, so they took us out. They decided to basically, after we did a theater thing, and we were doing all the photo shoots. We were doing the filming, through dinner and all sorts of different things. The crew was able to turn off their cameras at, I think, 11 o'clock at night. And then, but the problem was we were going to be filming at breakfast the next day. In order for them to do that, we had to do breakfast before everybody else was there, and they obviously had to do the setup for us. So I forget what the call was for the filming shoot. It was probably like 5. But yeah, we probably only had about 45 minutes sleep. And I mean, that was just a trip, again, because there were so many things going on. And I don't know if you remember Cuskawilla, when we're at that location, which I still remark that, if I talk about, and I wrote an article a few years ago, and people can find it on flagstick.com about, travel nightmares of things that had happened. And obviously there's a lot more that can add to it, but that was the case of the facility at the time. They put us up in private housing. And it was one of the members and one of their houses that was right by the golf course. And you were in the upstairs, I was in the downstairs. And it just so happened that, in the middle of the night, you have this happen where you wake up and you do a little scratch, and you think maybe something's bugging you or whatever. And fine, that, it happens, and you don't think much of it. Well, this persisted, and they kept going. And I just thought, something's weird here. And then eventually I'm like, I got to turn on the light. This is really driving me nuts. I flip on the light.
Joe's listening.
I know. And to my horror, the whole place was covered in ants. Like, they were marching everywhere. There was thousands of ants or whatever. I was freaking out because I didn't know if it was real or not. I actually woke up and I'm thinking, is this a dream? And so it was like, jet to the shower, get all this stuff off. And it was just crazy. But it was some of the things you kind of go through, and it made for an awkward dinner the next night with the CEO.
Exactly.
How
were your accommodations?
Exactly. Well, we had to move this morning because we had a little bit of an ant problem, and he's thinking, a few ants. And then I described the whole thing, and he's like, oh boy. And obviously it wasn't something that was written into the story at the time, but I've told since then, and it was nobody's fault or anything. It wasn't like it was their hotel facility or whatever, but it's definitely one of the more memorable moments in one of the road trips over the years.
I think Joe was like, what the, am I ever glad I wasn't on that one?
Yeah.
You know that Jeff put that jar of ants.
He probably, well, it would have been a big jar. It would have been a very big jar.
Oh my gosh, the truth now comes out.
Yeah.
I was mad because he took a quarter off me in the previous day's matches.
Yes, exactly.
Scott, do you remember Tennessee?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember
yes,
there was the Nicholas course that we played the day after? We stayed at these little cottage things in the woods, cabins in the woods.
Yeah, it was Warrior State Park is the one you're going to or whatever. And
it was not a very like this is the Crystal Lake kind of stuff. Like
it was. Yeah, we had a couple there. I mean, that trip was memorable because it was the eastern part of Tennessee and Kentucky for that road trip. And I think the first memorable thing from that trip was the I'll do the Warrior State Park thing, and then I'll get to the Crystal one, which is at, I think, Cumberland.
Have you heard these stories before, Joe?
And again, this is the fun when you're going here. The first one I'll say quickly, and the other one's funny, but we go to the place in Tennessee, great state park. Turned out to be a fabulous golf course, but it was funny. We get to the front entrance, and there's two older gentlemen that are sitting on the step, kind of rocking on their chairs or whatever, and we're like thinking, it's just a couple of members or whatever. Well, it turns out it's the pro and the assistant pro, and they're both about 80 years old, and then we sort of say, oh, hi, blah, blah. And the guy's like, well, we heard about you. We got a fax from you, about you guys or whatever. They're like, oh boy. And then, we were too early for our tea time. So they tell us to go into the grill because they've got the best hot dogs in the entire state. So we wander over to the grill and we meet, I don't know, Miss Dolly or something, as that's working in there. And she's like, oh yeah, we said, oh, we got to have hot dogs. We hear they're just great. And, that's been the fun part, discovering all these little places over the years. Anyways, we order our hot dogs and say we want to, and we're thinking, this is awesome. Can't wait. These are going to be the best hot dogs ever or whatever. I'd say about 45 seconds later, all we hear is beep, beep, beep as the microwave goes off, and she brings the hot dogs out of the microwave, and we're like so deflated. Like, it's just unbelievable. So yeah, and it continued. That trip was funny because we found one of our cartographers trick. Our GPS took us down a road that wasn't a road in the middle of eastern Kentucky that just got smaller and smaller and turned out to be a trail. And then we go to this one place that we know is, it's kind of neat. We end up going to the original Kentucky Fried Chicken, which was disappointing in its own way. But we go to this resort. We drive up to the top of this mountain. We get there. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do, so we're looking for our internet connection, phone or whatever. So we get there, we check in. They tell us, oh, the phone lines are down. All right. Then we find out the internet is down. Yeah. Okay. Then we don't have power. We have no power. And they're like, they don't know when that's going to come back. And I'm like, all right, Jeff, on our way up, we drove past this area that's supposed to have this beautiful, waterfall. And, we should have a look at it, try to get a photo and stuff for the story or whatever. So we drive back down the hill, get to the area, and we start to see the side of the road where the people are on the side of the road. We're like, oh, that must be it. And we pull over, walk down there, and these people staring over a fence up at the waterfall. We look up, the waterfall is bone dry. And I look at Jeff and I'm like, nothing works around here, apparently.
Not even the water.
Not even the water. And and then, that same thing a few minutes later, whatever, we decide to go to this, the original Kentucky Fried Chicken, which, we go into this old part of this building, which has the reenactment of the original rooms of the hotel where Harlan Sanders had his Kentucky Fried Chicken. And we're thinking, oh, this is really cool. We'll see this and we'll see the restaurant and we'll be able to eat here and stuff. And we see the reenactment area and what they've got there, this original hotel room. And we're like, okay, where's the Kentucky Fried Chicken? We're waiting to see this old school restaurant or whatever. And they're like, oh, it's through that door. When we walked through the door, it was a standard Kentucky Fried Chicken. It looked like any other Kentucky Fried Chicken in the world, except for the chicken was like about this.
It was
big.
like it was like a whole chicken.
Yeah,
but it was only the
exactly.
chicken breast. Like it was that big. I think it was like at least this big around.
Yeah,
like, it was
so
crazy.
Memorable trip. Always something would happen. There was always a highlight and always something funny that you could add into a story for sure.
Exactly. So see, Joe, you've been on 31 FAMs and you've only went on one real road trip, but I think after hearing some of those stories, you're probably glad that you didn't experience some of those road trips. They're pretty nasty. Now, staying on the topic of trips, every year the PGA show has been more or less a mainstay. I haven't been to one in a while for different reasons, but the PGA show is always a mainstay of our first part of our calendar year at the end of January. We always go down and different things would happen, and there was always fun things that occurred during PGA shows. But one of the things that was kind of interesting was we did have the opportunity one year to take Joe to his first PGA show, and accompanying Joe to his first PGA show was another staff member at the time, Chris Meakin, his mini-me. And
Joe's not laughing. Now he is.
Joe's not laughing. He's afraid of where this story is going to go. But,
I know where it's going. Hotel Rwanda.
So there were two major things that occurred during this trip that were rather interesting. One of them was the hotel that we stayed at, dubbed Hotel Rwanda. Joe, what do you remember of that particular hotel?
Not sleeping. Scared.
Why, Joe? What was wrong with your hotel room, Joe?
Well, a crack through the ceiling, floors uneven. God only knows.
I think there was a hole in the floor of your room.
What part of town were we in?
We were still in, and it wasn't that far from the convention center. It just so happens that there are a lot of rundown hotels that maybe don't portray themselves as being run down. When you look at them online, you're thinking, oh, that'll be okay. Not so much.
Hence, we always read reviews before we went anywhere else.
And sometimes those weren't even true.
Exactly. Some of them were pretty bad. Now, one of the things that we kind of, in hindsight, we made up was there was an initiation for any, there was an initiation for any new staff members at the time that were joining, us on their first PGA show, that we would go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and they had to consume, I believe it was three. Was it three? Three suicide.
It was four.
It was four suicide hot wings, and these things are like unbearably hot. Like the funny part about it is there really was no initiation. It was just Scott and I's way of getting Joe and Chris to do something. Maybe it's a little hazing thing, but all in good fun. Anyway, out come these wings. Joe's pretty much sitting as he is right now on if you're watching on YouTube. Just whatever. Okay, bring him on. Let's go. I'll get these done, and then we'll have my dinner. Chris, on the other hand, was not quite as calm, cool, and collected leading into the challenge, so to speak. And the wings came out, and you could just you could feel the heat from the wings coming off the wings. Well,
I think you could smell them from Georgia, probably.
Yeah. Joe popped through four wings. No problem at all. Like trooper guy, Joe's the man. Chris did not make it. Chris didn't make it through four wings. I don't think he made it through four wings, and he was doing some things to try to get the heat away that just didn't make it.
He was eating sugar. He was doing all sorts of things, but yeah, it only took minutes before he was off to the bathroom. That's for sure.
Exactly. So these are these are some of the things that happen. When you take this many trips, there's always a bunch of things that can occur that are a little out there, a little interesting. I mean, there's been some PGA shows, where I had my own fair share of PGA show issues. Let's just say, without going into too much detail, I was young.
I thought I was sworn to secrecy on those things.
I was young and I was foolish, and I will never go into karaoke bar ever again.
You were very friendly.
Yes.
To lots of people, and they were very kind, and they may have taken advantage of your kindness in having an extra beverage or two.
So unfortunately, this is one story that does not get told. This is one that will, this one, those that know it, and they're sworn to secrecy on it. But it was an interesting story too. Okay, guys, listen, we have touched on, our favorite covers. We've touched on road trips and destinations of interest and stories along those destinations. What I want to touch on a little bit is just get into a little bit, and we'll start with Joe on this one, because, and this is really more for the two of you guys to kind of dive in a little bit, and things that from an editorial perspective. And one of the things that I've always taken away from every year, every issue, is the people that we meet along the way, the people that we talk to, the profiles that we do, and on people, and what that's given to us as far as knowledge of these individuals and learning things that you don't always learn. And I haven't written as many of them as the two of you, which is why I'm kind of deferring this to you guys. But, Joe, you've written so many different profiles on so many different people. Any of those profiles that you've written, I mean, you don't have to go into details about the profiles themselves, but any of those profiles and stories about people that you've written that just over 25 years, just kind of come to mind, like, I remember writing about this guy, or, interview I did with this guy.
Well, the one that stands out is Ernie Wakeland. When I went up to Renfrew to meet his son Charlie. Obviously, Ernie had passed away years before, but Charlie was such an interesting old guy, and his memory was very intact. All of these profiles, that one stands out, but what really stands out is the stories each one of these people have to tell. And you don't know going in what's going to come up or what have you, but everybody out there has a story.
Yeah.
And you just have to sit there and you have to listen. And then you have to take it from there. But it's just fantastic what the stories these people are able to tell about themselves and other people around them, family-wise and what have you. So it's, but it just, the Ernie Wakeland one just stood out for one reason, and just meeting his son Charlie. I guess the other one was, that's basically the one there that stands out.
Yeah, Scott, what about you?
Oh, there's a lot over the years, and I think one of the biggest things that resonates when you're writing the profile stories is, one, as Joe said, a lot of people are maybe not exposed to what these people have done in their lives. And it's always been interesting to see the impact afterwards, and, get a note from the family or, somebody to say, hey, thanks for telling the story. We've known about it for years, but, they've never gotten the recognition that, maybe they should, or they felt they needed to, or whatever. And I think for me, I think of, again, some of the people that had longer careers. Merv Costello, for an example, who was a lifetime member of the PGA of Canada, passed away a few years ago. And I can remember just going to his house and sitting and hearing stories. And again, I knew him as a as a PGA professional who happened to be down in the Kingston area. But I didn't know all his background, and I didn't know, the Canadian Opens that he'd played in and the people he knew, and the connection to all the different other clubs around, Canada and so forth. And I think those are the things that always are the neat threads. And we don't always have the space to tell all those stories, but it's the privilege to be able to listen and hear all those stories and then try to, translate it into something that at least give people or the readers a chance to appreciate those people. And I think of Betty Ingram Wanacott, who just passed away at, I think she was 97. And I can remember going to her house, and this is a lady who won 30 plus club championships at the Bay of Quinte, and, was playing in, winning Ontario senior events, 40 years ago and 50 years ago, and or 40 years ago. And it's going to their house and then, having them invite you in as a guest and being willing to share, because it's not always easy. I mean, not every person wants to talk about themselves. But that there's something there that you want to share with other people that's kind of special. And just that opportunity to be able to do that. The other side of it too, and I guess it falls into the profile stuff and it doesn't. And, I wrote about it in the last issue, talking about in the opening drive call and talking about the privilege of being around people as they're developing in the sport. And I think one thing that happens in all of media, and it's totally understandable, is that, people will always get attention when they become the top of their field in the world, whether it's golf or sport or business or whatever. They will always get attention. But the neat part is to be there when they started, and we've all talked about this. And a lot of people are very familiar, obviously, with a Brooke Henderson or Brittany Henderson at this point, or, a Brad Fritsch or a Lee Curry, all these people. But to have watched them as kids develop and to know them and to have that personal relationship of having witnessed those things, those are really neat. I mean, Salima Musani, who just was named as assistant coach for Team Canada just yesterday, I can remember being there and watching her shoot 66 at the Ottawa Hunt Club in 2006. And, again, to be able to share those stories back then and have those knowledge of those stories, it's just really kind of an honor. So, overall, it's hard to say one profile over another, but just they're memorable all for different reasons and for the fact that you're able to share their personal stories.
Now, let's spin that a little bit more and stay with the editorial side of things. 25 years, roughly, 6 issues a year. I mean, there's a lot of magazines that we've published, a lot of news articles that have been written, a lot of profiles, a lot of course profiles. We've always tried to have every issue we've always tried to have one major feature editorial piece in every single issue. And some of those features are equipment features, some of them are instruction features, some of them are travel features. Any one feature over the years that you particularly enjoyed writing, that particularly stands out as something that you liked the feature itself, how it looked in the magazine, the cover, the story itself, anything like that in particular, Joe?
Well, there's 2 that stand out, and I guess McKellar Park, just for its history, was one. And the second one was more recent, was the Ottawa Valley Golf Association officials and their story. As you know, I'm probably 40 years into the Ottawa Valley Golf Association. I've been a tournament director. I've been the president, and now I'm on the Hall of Fame committee as the historian of the OVGA, basically. And it was just a treat to be able to talk to each of these officials. And we have more at the time. I guess there were level 4 officials in the Ottawa area than there were in any other pocket in Ontario. And just their stories, what they do, how they get involved, and they don't ask for a thing. They're out there because they love doing the rules, much the same as our Flagstick events. We get the crew from the OVGA, and they don't ask for a thing. They just want to make sure that, Jeff, you've always wanted to run an event that was close to properly run as possible. And from the onset, we've had OVGA officials, or we've had officials looking after our players.
Yeah.
Players may not like it, but when they have to play by the rules, these guys are always there. So those are the two that stand out to me.
Yeah, we have been definitely very fortunate with the Flagstick events, particularly the Flagstick Open, where we've had, top OVGA officials and helping us out with those events, making sure that everything runs the way it should. So that's been really good for us over the years, and that's a great one. I actually had forgotten about that as a feature, the officials one that you did, and that was a really good one. Scott, what about you? I know you've written so many. To kind of pinpoint it down. For me, I probably have never written any of the features, so it'd be easy for me to pick one because there weren't any. But
it's hard. It's hard because you're right. Again, we're talking a couple 100+ publications and always some sort of feature in it, and whatever else we did online and stuff as well. But I think a combination of a couple things. One, I can remember doing one called the Tour Rep Life, whether it was the Golf Dream Job, and it just happened where somebody on social media or something said, oh, that seems like the dream job or whatever. So I thought I'd dig into it, and I actually went down to a tour event, spent some time with the tour reps, all the time in the truck doing all sorts of different things, seeing what their job was like or whatever, and was able to kind of lay that out. So that was kind of a fun and interesting one to do. Those things were really neat to do. I know I did one that was more of it was more of the jobs in the industry. And I can remember spending a very early morning with Eric Ruse from the Ottawa Hunt Club and going out and looking at the jobs of in the industry and what these people do. So people would have a greater respect for what they did. And I went, first thing in the morning, drove up from Kingston to Ottawa. I think, Eric was having a laugh because he's like, oh, I'm going to be there at 4:30. And I'm like, I'll be there. And, I was there, and he probably thought, oh no, there's no way he's going to come. And, spending time with those people in the industry and be able to share their jobs. And another one in the same sort of vein, as far as, again, trying to showcase golf a little bit. We did one, which I almost even forgot about, was called What Makes Golf Good. And it was really a compilation of reaching out to a ton of different people that were golfers or in the golf industry and getting their feeling or their expression of why golf was important to them and what it did for their life. And it was interesting and eye-opening to hear their perspective of why the game was special. And again, just to be able to write that and share it was kind of neat. So again, very hard. You could, I could start on one list, and next thing you know, if I had them all in front of me, we could be 20, 30 deep, just commenting on all the different things. But those are certainly ones that stand out.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I don't recall writing any myself, writing any of the features, because I don't think we really started doing the major features in the magazine until after you arrived.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was pretty much you and Joe handling all of that. But I do one, there's a number of them. I love them all. There's one in particular that it's not, I wouldn't say that it's my favorite, but looking at the instruction stuff that we've done over the years, we've done a number of instruction features, and Kevin Haim has always been the one to participate in those with us. And the one that stands out the most to me is one that we did called Sports Talk.
Oh yeah.
And I think people will see a little bit of this come through later on this year when we do a video feature. But the Sports Talk one was very very interesting because
I definitely remember that. I remember that full photo shoot.
And inside, it wasn't just the photo shoot was fun, but inside Kevin had skates on.
16th fairway at Eagle Creek.
There you go. So it's just stuff like that you could do just a basic instruction feature on something and say, okay, write this, take a couple pictures. But we always sort of went the extra mile, and Kevin was always a willing participant in doing something like that. So it kind of goes on. I wanted to mention the instruction because there's been so many, all of the historical stuff that we've done, the research that's gone into, from a history standpoint, some people are into the history. Some people, we run a feature like that, and some people are not, they don't respect it the same, so they don't care. But that doesn't mean that it's any less important for us to do stuff like that, because there's still a fair number of people that enjoy the historical side of things. Doing instruction, feature travel, editorial stuff, like where you get into, a day in the life, or jobs in the industry. Well, we've done feature instruction on golf course architecture, where we involved Stephen Ward from Golf Plan Associates, that was responsible for a number of golf courses, particular ones like Trillium Wood, Timber Ridge. A fantastic architect who redid all the greens at Renfrew, but he was involved, a big part of that feature editorial that we did as well. So there's been such a variety of feature editorial over the years. And, once again, getting back to a historical one, this issue with the history of organized golf, the last 100 years in this region. So, people have to understand, people that are watching and listening have to understand the time and energy that goes into these feature editorials. It's not like covering a tournament and writing about who won, taking a picture, holding up a trophy, and put in the results. Yeah. These feature editorials are, better, getting into the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000, some even more words written, the hours of research that go into them. These editorials, what we do is about producing magazines, and yes, advertising is pays for this stuff, but the people that are advertising in the magazine have no idea what the feature stories are going to be before we write them, before we publish them. If we don't publish a feature story in the magazine, it's not going to have a direct effect on whether we get advertising or not. So it's not like these editorials that we're doing are for the benefit of our advertisers directly. These are being done because they're to the benefit of the reader. And and I think that's, again, comes back to how this magazine and how this business is built, reader first and, advertiser second. Yes, the advertising is important, but the primary goal is to engage with our reader as much as possible, and that'll benefit the advertisers in the long run. But so when we're coming up with these story ideas, and when you guys are sitting down writing this stuff, you're thinking about it primarily, 100% directed at what does the reader want to hear? What does the reader want to see? What do they want to read? It's not up to you to worry about the advertising. That's my job. So, over the years, what's the motivation from you guys as far as some of these stories, and is there an endless bucket that you that you have sitting beside you in your office when I say, oh, what's the feature this month? And you're like, well, let me just reach over here and see. Yeah. Well, we got what are we doing this? Joe, what's the motivation behind some of the features that you want to write? Not so much what Scott might say, okay, we're going to do this, like that you want to write, things that you want to talk about.
Well, I don't think there's anything that Scott tells me to write. It's interest. Like right now, it's been an exceptionally great year, even though we've been through COVID, that I've had a lot of time to do a lot of research. I mean, what else are you going to do? You can't go out anywhere, or you couldn't go out anywhere. So I've been doing some research on a number of different things, and I think I'm up to about 5,000 words on a guy named Frank Corrigan, golfer in the 1930s, 40s. When the story comes out, they'll see probably had a very privileged life. His father was the founder of the Chaudière Golf Club, now the Chateau Cartier. And so he grew up in a golf environment. Don't know how much he worked. Seemed to go all over the country playing golf and into the States playing golf. And finally married. He was born in 1914.
Well, save some of the story, Joe. Save some of the story.
I know. But
Joe gets motivated. This is
well, the story that's there basically is he got married in 50 and had 2 children. And as the kids were growing up into their teens, he had stopped playing golf because he wanted to spend time with his family, showing a very different side of a person. And tragically, in 1967, he was in Montreal, fell down a flight of steps, died.
Well,
There's the story of Frank Corrigan, and I mean, what he had accomplished was phenomenal. In fact, he's being looked at for the OVGA Hall of Fame in the near future.
there you go. So,
But the stories that are there, basically, Jeff, are of interest to me. And I, like you said earlier in this, I have to give kudos to Flagstick for taking me on and allowing me to research a lot of things that I'm interested in. I became interested in, much so that I became a member of the Golf Historical Society of Canada, did their newsletter for a number of years, and it's created a passion for history of golf. I mean, I jokingly say again that if I had this passion for history when I was in high school, I might have amounted to something. But it's there right now, and I credit Scott that anytime I come up with a thought or a person or a project, go for it. You know, it's not a question, well, I don't think that's going to fit with us or anything else. We run with those things. That's and it's been a great it's been a great 25 years as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't come on board full time till 2001.
Look, everybody came on right around the same time, didn't they? Scott was, latter part of 99, 2000. Joe was 2001. Sean came on board in 2001. We had some other staff, Chris Meekin. There was a very short stint that we had ventured out into a Central Ontario edition with Pat McCauley was with us at the time. And interestingly enough, Pat's gone on to become a pretty big real estate deal in the Peterborough Kawartha area. So I like to think that I helped him out a little bit with his sales techniques. But anyway, no, we had Central Ontario was it's not all, the 25 years is not all, a bed of roses either. It's not the journey to get to where we are now is, and I'm not speaking, I don't want to speak specifically to, negative things, but not everything that we've attempted to do or that we've launched has been a success. And some things weren't a success initially, and it took a while for them to take. We had a few good years of Flagstick for Women, which we launched, and sometimes something's success and it's we'll call it a unsuccessful as opposed to failure is like for instance, Flagstick for Women was a great concept. We published 3 editions at one point. We were publishing 3 editions of Flagstick for Women a year, and the readership was outstanding, but the marketing, the advertising support behind it wasn't there. And it wasn't because the advertisers didn't want to. It's that, we had Flagstick and now we have Flagstick for Women. We're after the same advertisers. So, it was a great idea, but, these things, printing's expensive and you have to cover the cost of these things with advertising. And, we did Stroke Savers and we delved into the golf travel as a separate publication. So we've done a number of different things there. I recall we did, when we launched our brand new website, we had a big campaign called Project 13 and big launch at the Golf Expo one year. And the Golf Expo has always been sort of like, here we go, start of the year, let's go. We got this website, and God, if that website just crapped the bed in every way possible. It was just a really and expensive as hell to have. We had a company build it for us, and it was just it was a gong show nightmare. But with some unsuccessful ventures come some successful turnarounds, and we ended up, I learned how to do more myself again, and we were able to rebuild that website into what people see now, and it's an extremely good website now. And I'm sorry if I'm patting ourselves on the back, but it is. It's deep in content. It's always current. We're always, altering it and changing it to make it more update for people and keep with the times. And, so sometimes, we fail at things, but we don't necessarily fail at them. We just fall down a little bit and we figure out, another way of doing it that's going to be more successful. And we've done that. I mean, it's, it goes back to what you said at the beginning there, Scott, about resilience. We've been knocked down a number of times. We've been knocked down, mentally and trying to do some things, financially and trying to do some things. I mean, this is not 25 years of the growth chart going straight up through the roof. And, I don't live on some cliffside overlooking the Ottawa River here with 2 pools and a Ferrari in the driveway here. Like, I mean,
What?
It's a good business. It's been a good business, and it's had certainly a lot of hills and valleys to work through, but we're still here. And that's a testament to that's not a testament to my ability as a business person per se. That's a testament to the industry support that we have gotten. It's a testament to the people like yourselves and Joe and others that have written stories like Kevin and Rich McLean and Dean Ryan, and I mean, God, the list goes on and on and on of people that have provided content for us over the years and continue to support what we do. Guys, any other stories over the last 25 years that kind of pop into your head that people would never read it in the pages of this magazine or on the website, but would be interesting shares?
Well, I think, going back to what Joe was talking about, and you mentioned about motivation to do things. I think one of the missions as far as finding stories and doing things is to find stories that people wouldn't think they wanted to hear about, but in the end they did get to hear about, those profiles or course stories, or profiling 9-hole golf courses or things. They might think of, we'll talk about golf course for an example. They might think of the high profile golf courses and that's what they want to hear about, but they find out that all of a sudden when you're doing a profile on going to play a 9-hole golf course in the middle of wherever, that they're like, wow, I didn't know about that place. Or, I've lived here the whole time and I don't really know about that. So I think that is that motivation that you talked about before. I think for me, that comes back to living in BC when I was a teenager, and I used to have a book that it was a BC golf guide. And all I knew at that point of being 15 or 16 is I knew, Capilano golf course and, Shaughnessy and all these high-end courses. And then when you open up this book and then all of a sudden there's 260 golf courses, 9-holers in the middle of nowheres. And you're like, wow, okay, that's, there's more to it than you think. So I think that's the exposure that we've done, whether it's, they'll pick Algonquin, Joe going up to Algonquin and Messine, and, not a golf course that maybe got a lot of exposure, but the fact of going up there and writing the story of it and how that course originated. Some of the golf courses in the Pontiac region that, came about during a golden era when a lot of people used to go and spend their recreation time along the Ottawa River, and they enjoyed golf. There was one, for an example, and I'll give you one because you asked for one. It was a story that I did online for Remembrance Day a few years ago that basically exposed the fact that there was a couple of benefactors in the Kingston area that ended up putting their money. There was a Richardson family. They put their money behind a camp area that was in the center part of our area that had it was a rehab home basically for wounded soldiers that came back from World War I. And part of the rehabilitation was having a little golf facility that was there. And to go down that road and sort of explore that and find out the details of it and how it came about and who brought equipment there and how long was it around for. A lot of people wouldn't even thought that was of interest, but the reaction to that story was amazing. Because again, there's people that lived 5 minutes away their whole life and never knew that that little golf facility existed, or the fact that these Canadian soldiers would came back and they did the rehabilitation there, and that camp existed. So again, it's stuff like that that not only surprises us, but you know how you react to it, and you see it as, okay, wow, that's really neat, that's insightful, not from the historic perspective, but just the fact that golf is blended into the fabric of life. How can I bring exposure to that? And again, then when people read it, they're like, wow, okay, that's a story I didn't even know I wanted to read, but guess what?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, that's I guess 25 years of being around golf in this region. It just creates so much that we want to talk about, so much that we want to find out. It's like this it's like a never-ending mission to dig a little deeper and find out a little bit more. And you know, a lot of that, you know, I know, Joe, that's sort of your area of expertise, and one of the things that you do put your ear to the ground a lot, and you find out these things. And then, I mean, so many times I've seen you know, articles, particularly online in the back end of the website, where I see something in draft and I'm looking at the title of it and I'm going, what the heck is that? And I realize it's something that you're working on, or it might be something that Scott's working on. I was like, well, that's an interesting story. I didn't know that. And you know, so many of the stories that you've done, whether they're features or just stories, whether they're profiles or just a little 500-word write-up about, you know, different people, you know, it's things that I didn't know. And, you know, I'm certainly over the, you know, particularly the last half of the 25 years, I'm a lot less connected to what's going on out there, you know, than you guys are, you know, mainly because it's not really been my role over the years, or the last bunch of years. But, you know, those stories are why we are what we are. I think that's, you know, when you define what Flagstick is, I think that's, you know, we'd look it up, and that would be the definition would of what we are and why we exist is for that stuff, and for what goes on around this region. You know, despite the fact that what we've built over 25 years is something that has become much more global in its brand recognition. I think more people know across than the internet and social media are the reason for that. But, you know, the fact that anybody from anywhere can read anything that we publish online, I think it's important that when we look at the magazine itself, which is the thing that's 25 years old, that's never ever lost or, you know, changed its focus. It's always been about you know, golf within the region. You know, and
I'm going to add something to that,
yeah.
you know, it's not something we've talked about, but I think is really important for people to know and understand. And, you know, it's been said before, but in some ways, and I'll just give it an overall arching picture. In the 25 years, one of the things that's also been important as well is supporting the golf community and being behind the golf community, whether that was, you know, we've been involved in every in our 25-year period, every time that the Canadian Tour, for an example, has been part of this region, we've been involved in some way in projects and putting together, you know, programs and things like that. There's a lot of stuff done behind the scenes to help, you know, the Golf in the Schools program actually get to this part of the country, or get to Ontario the first time. Lots of different, you know, support behind trophies and donations, and, you know, OVGA junior sectionals and all sorts of different things. I mean, this is part of the essence as well, that, you know, again, we don't go out there and thump our chest over it, but it's something that sort of we feel is an obligation to support golf in the region and find a way to support the region. Whereas now, you know, we're a media partner, obviously, with the Play Junior Golf Tour. Anything that we can be involved in, it's not there from a commercial standpoint. You know, obviously certain things you're trying to do from a commercial level with programs and stuff for different events, but the whole idea is to foster golf in the region. And I don't think, and especially, you know, we talk about tournaments. We've been involved in tournaments since, you know, 2000, you know, sponsoring the Garrison Open, and obviously creating up, you know, to what is now with the Flagstick Open Amateur Championship. But just trying to be involved with that community, not just covering it as a media, you know, media people, Yeah, but being involved so that we can contribute and, try to make things better. And I think that's the important part that, is the brand more than anything, is making golf better in our region.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And I think I think, when I think about what we've, and yeah, we don't thump our chest. And I think that's part of the reason why, or part of the, maybe we don't need to, or we shouldn't feel that we need to thump our chest. But when people look at Flagstick and we have a lot of partners, marketing partners, golf courses and golf industry businesses that support us. Some support what we do, not because particularly what their return on their investment is. Some do it because they want to support what Flagstick represents and what it has represented. And, that's difficult for a business to look at something and say, it doesn't really matter to me whether or not I run an ad with them or I put this there and I get, 500 clicks or 200 clicks or, 3-4 people or 100 people book a tee time with me because of it. We're doing this to support it's an investment in the continued growth of the game. And, I think for me, I always lose sight of over 25 years what Flagstick really has done to help the game of golf grow and become better in this region. We're doing, things are good now with, the way tee sheets are looking because, people have nothing else to do and golf has become the thing again, as it was, years and years and years and years and years ago, where there was a lot less golf courses. But it's not more than 5 years ago or less than 5 years ago that I can recall numerous golf course operators talking to me about how, the statement was always that we have too many golf courses and not enough golfers to fill them. Well, now we have we have just enough golfers or too many golfers and not enough golf courses to support them. Well, that may be a short-term thing, that may be a mid-term thing. It's certainly not a long-term thing, I wouldn't think. But what we are here to do is to continue to help the industry push itself and keep itself in the forefront by continuing to keep people talking about it and reading about it and watching things about it. And, I think with some golf industry businesses and golf courses that they've, and this may come across, some may not like me saying this, but I think some of them have forgotten what we really represent and have forgotten what we've done for golf in this region. Truly, it's been a lot, and you're right. We have been involved in everything. Honestly, there's nothing that this magazine business, Flagstick has not been in some way involved in, some way touched, some way helped, whether it's covering an event, whether it's sponsoring an event, whether it's producing a guide for an event.
It could be as simple as phone calls and advice. Obviously, we have a lot of communications with a lot of people all the time, but I think that's because it's second nature to us. And I think that's the difference here, is that, it's not done with an end goal or a purpose to do a particular thing other than do the right thing, and do the right thing for the game. And I think, because we've kept that as what we need to do, and that's our core, that's the reason why we've been here for 25 years.
Yeah. Exactly. And some people have said on social media, hope to see you there for 25 more. Well, I don't know. I'll be Joe's age by the time we get to another 25 years.
I probably won't be around at that point.
I don't know, Joe. You might be working from home more, but
you know what? This has all been fantastic to relive everything. But I think one thing we've forgotten to acknowledge is our wives and our families
Well, I haven't forgotten.
behind us all the
Yeah.
way through all of this stuff that have allowed us to do our different parts of what's gone on with Flagstick through the years. So I think they deserve full credit for a lot of allowing us to do the things we've done.
Oh, 100%. Well, they say behind every great man is a better woman.
Oh yeah, by
It's-
far. And I mean, yeah.
Tolerance is huge, and this is not. I mean, Scott, with all the travel, you know, for myself, especially in the early days, you know, the number of all-nighters that I pulled, you know, writing articles, producing a magazine, you know, Trish sitting there proofing it, sitting up with me until 2 o'clock in the morning, knowing she had to work at 8 o'clock the next morning, you know, worrying about me, you know, driving from Ottawa to Gananoque, half asleep with the magazines to wax it up and put it on the flat so that, you know, the magazine could get to the print, get printed in time. I mean, you know, it's been a ride. It's been, and yeah, she's been with me, you know, you know, the whole way. You know, even my parents. I mean, you know, Trish and I used to do deliveries together, and my dad and mom used to meet us in Crosby, the corner there of Highway 15, and there's a little gas station on the corner. They used to meet us there, and I used to give him the magazines to take to Kingston. And he used to deliver the magazines in Kingston. You know, my dad built all the original wooden racks that for the most part are still used. You know, there's a couple of them that I have that aren't being used anymore. But I mean, Metcalf Golf Course, Tom Welch painted his and decorated it and still uses it. They don't use the new wire ones. I mean, that's the thing. Like, yeah, you're right, Joe. It's our wives and it's our families. You know, the support that we've had over 25 years is immense. And
My daughter got her first bike at a Flagstick golf tournament.
Yeah, I remember that. It was the smuggler's shootout. I remember that. Yeah.
No,
mean,
you're right. Yeah,
I've got one little interesting thing that I guess covering so many events in the Ottawa area that I got a phone call from Jeff one time. He had dropped into the Smiths Falls Golf Club, and somebody had come up and said, "Would you thank Joe for what a great magazine he has?"
Yeah.
Well, at least they knew who you were. Half
Exactly.
The time, Jeff and I would go to a place and they'd say, "Hey, Jeff," and I'm like, "I'm Scott," and then, you know, Jeff would be the same and say, "Hey, Scott." No, so I mean, hey, it was whatever.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
It didn't really matter. So
I've always joked with Joe about that, though. If he wants the magazine anytime, he's happy to be the publisher and pay the bills. I'm okay with that too.
There you go.
It wouldn't matter to me at all. Oh God. Well, guys, listen. We could go on and on and on. This could be part 1 of 100. But we do have to end it and end the conversation. And I really hope that those that get a chance to listen and are listening to this or watching it on YouTube, that they get a sense for what the 25 years of doing this has been like. And I think, in listening to the enthusiasm that we have for talking about, you know, what the last 25 years have been like, that they understand how much it's meant to us to get to this point, and how much we enjoy it, whether it's hard or not. I mean, how many times have our parents said that anything worth doing is worth doing right, and if you're not willing to put in the effort, then if it's not hard, there's no point, you know, in doing it. It's got to be hard, and we've put the effort in, and the work is hard, but the result is that after 25 years of doing this, we're still here. We're still doing it. It's a digital magazine, not a print magazine, and it may never be a print magazine again. We don't know that because we can't predict the future, but right now it is what it is. And for me personally, the journey of the last 25 years with both of you has been a lot of fun. I certainly hope that we're looking at some more years ahead of us. And I certainly hope that that both of you are with me when we continue that journey. And if not, then the likelihood is that I'm not here either. So thank you, both of you, for all that you've done for me and for this business for the last 25 years and for the region. And thank you for doing this show with me today and you know, on the 613 Golfer podcast and talking about all this. It's been a lot of fun.
This coffee's for you.
That's a great way to finish it off, Joe.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, you know what? It has been a ride. Wouldn't give it back for the world.
No, neither would I. Thanks, guys. I'm sure we'll be talking to you very, very soon.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.
Wow. Well, that certainly was quite the trip down memory lane. And honestly, people, we really could have gone on for hours and hours and hours talking about every little nuance and every little story from every little trip. Some of those things we wouldn't share with you, but there's certainly, we tried to kind of get through as much of the 25 years as we could and see what, you know, touch on the things that we thought would be important for you, the listener, and for those watching on YouTube to know and understand. And to get through 25 years of publishing in you know, niche market media, much like this, let alone, you know, any media, is a massive accomplishment. It's a testament to the kind of content that you're bringing. It's a testament to your audience's interest in what you're delivering to them. It's a testament to the support you've had financially through your marketing partners and your commitment level yourself, as well as that of your families behind you, because it is a lot of long hours. It is a lot of late nights. It is a lot of time away from your family when you're doing, you know, particularly for Scott over the years with a lot of the travel. I haven't done as much of the travel, but you know, just to get the information and to stay, it's building that brand and building that reputation, and that takes time, it takes energy, and it takes commitment. And you know, I've certainly had, like I touched on, a lot of people have been contributors to the magazine over the years, and but those two people, aside from my wife Patricia, that's you know, that's been my biggest supporter, you know, aside from her, Scott and Joe have been, you know, right with me every step of the way. You know, even before they both actually started working with me at the magazine, you know, when they were doing their own thing before, they were still right with me, guiding, helping, whatever it took to help me make sure that I could do this successfully. And I will never be able to, in my lifetime, be able to repay them and thank them enough for the energy and the effort and the commitment and the support that they've given me. So it was great to be able to do that with them today on the show. And I hope that everybody enjoys that that little interview roundtable, if you will, discussion. And who knows, you know, another 5 years, maybe we're having another conversation. But at this point, we're kind of looking at taking everything 1 year at a time at this point, because, you know, you just don't know what the golf industry is going to deliver. And, you know, hopefully the worst is behind us and we can move forward and start to progress ahead under the new world order, if you will. So look, this has been a long show. I think we're going to keep this last segment relatively short and relatively quick, but that does not mean that we do not give you our 613 Golfer podcast tip, quick tip. And for that, we are going to go right out to the lesson tee at the Kevin Haim Golf Center and get our quick tip this week from our good buddy Kevin Haim.
Today we talk about how bad it is to straighten here, and I see this a lot. People hike this shoulder up. Remember, when you stand over a golf ball, you don't want too much angle here, and you sure don't want to be tense. So let's bring those shoulders down and soften them. And then we have a little tiny bit of spine tilt in golf, about, 2 to 4 degrees with an iron and maybe 4 to 7 with a driver. But that's how we get that angle to our shoulders, not by hiking up, That's very unnatural and tense. We get it by just tilting our spine back ever so slightly, and then let those shoulders drop. Take the air out of them. Let them go closer to the ground. That's your quick tip for today. Next time you're hitting golf balls, try to look more like this over the ball, not like this. For more tips like this, check me out at Kevin Haim on Twitter or on any social media platform.
Well, another fantastic little quick tip. And, for those, that's our quick tip, but, head on over to flagstick.com. Check out the latest edition of Flagstick magazine, the digital edition of Flagstick magazine at flagstick.com. And inside that issue, you will find our second anniversary tip, with Kevin and his son Jake. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a spring load your game tip that was run back in 2002, I believe, and you'll find that at flagstick.com. Also, if you visit the YouTube channel, check out this, as you're checking out podcasts, in particular this one or T-Talk, you'll find the anniversary tip, the second edition anniversary tip there as well. So thanks again for doing that, Kevin, and make sure you check out the rest of the tips at flagstick.com. Well, that's going to be it for me for this week. I know we missed a week, but I think we made up for the next couple of weeks if we felt like it with that little anniversary 25th anniversary roundtable discussion with Scott MacLeod and Joe McLean. I hope you enjoyed it, and I know I enjoyed doing it. And if you like that and you like some of the other podcasts, make sure that you like us on YouTube. Click the little like button and click the notification button. Make sure that you get every single episode of this podcast. You can obviously subscribe to it on YouTube. You can also subscribe to it at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can check out every single episode that we have on flagstick.com very easily. Thanks again to Scott and Joe. Thanks to Kevin for the tip. Thanks again to our sponsor this week, TaylorMade Golf. And make sure you go to taylormadegolf.ca and check out all of the latest TaylorMade stuff, the new high toe raw wedges, the Sim 2 drivers, irons, fairways, hybrids, the new TP5 and TP5X golf balls. So much great stuff from TaylorMade, and they've been a big supporter of ours. So check them out at taylormadegolf.ca. That's it for me for this week. Again, I am Jeff Blotter, your host. This has been the 613 Golfer podcast, and always remember, go for the stick.